We've been talking a lot lately about how Ivanka Trump has abandoned her father, all because his lies and delusions and insanity, just being even more unhinged than usual, have caused real damage to Ivanka, her reputation, her brand, may even send her to prison. And so her and her husband Jared have basically made the decision to abandon Donald Trump wholesale. And this clip from CNN gives some new additional context.
Okay, why is this happening, Kate?
Well, I mean, I think just like you said, this is clearly a former president who cannot move on, who continues to talk about, everything from who portrayed him on a late night comedy sketch show to the election that he still claims was not accurate. So Jared and Ivanka were with him all the time, so much so that they coined the Javanka term. And this is very interesting. They do not want to be around, nor do they want to be in the orbit of this continued sort of not being able to move on, not being able to let go. And they've made a very calculated and thoughtful decision to back away and not spend as much time with the former president, who, of course, also happens to be Ivanka's father and Jared Kushner's father-in-law. One person described it to my colleague on this story, Gabby Orr, by saying it's sort of like the parent who less and less stays at daycare in the morning dropping off their child. Like slowly, Jared and Ivanka have backed away.
And so what that shows is that this is even more personal than we thought. The original coverage was basically that this was a professional disconnection, that they were still going to be a loving family, but that they weren't going to have a professional relationship. Jared and Ivanka didn't want to work day to day with Donald, but maybe they would have some sort of grandparent relationship with the kids, or maybe a father-son, father-daughter relationship, whatever. And that doesn't seem to be the case. The text here, the subtext here, is that this is a personal disconnection to some degree because of all of the trouble. And this matters for a couple reasons. It shows that the damage has been more than just about money and politics. It's sort of torn this family apart a little bit. But more than that, it shows the relative dumbness of the Trumps. I'm not going to harp on this too much, but again, while Eric and Don Jr. are staying loyal and connected to Daddy, and that could take them down to prison, Ivanka and Jared, I think, are making the smarter decision. I'm not defending them, but the only way you can get rid of Trump's stink is to totally get him out of your life. It might not work. I don't think it should work, but it's the only thing that you have left to try, and she's the one trying it while her brothers are screwing around still on Fox News every night crying about Daddy. And I think this is important for us to understand. One, she is the least dumb Trump, so it's probably a signal that if anyone's going to get away with this, it's probably her. But we can't let Ivanka get away with this. We have to remember that she's not an innocent victim here. Yeah, it must suck having Donald Trump as your dad. Like, let's be real, that would be terrible. But you've been an adult for a long time. You're almost 40 years old. You did evil, and your husband did evil as top advisors in the White House. You were a corporate executive for Trump. You did all of this and stood by, and more often than not, applauded it. And you hoped that you could go back to your rich, white elite life in New York and have all your old friends, but they've abandoned you. And so what Ivanka and Jared are trying to do is disconnect, say we're not part of the Trump world anymore, and hopefully in a few years be welcomed back into respectable society. And we can't let that happen because, one, they have not faced accountability for their crimes and for their corruption, and two, we can't let Ivanka try to capture the Trump base while simultaneously wiping her hands of Trumpism. Because if they all do avoid prison and Ivanka is allowed to rehabilitate her image, she could capture some of that Trump energy without some of the downsides, but she would be just as evil as Daddy and likely a little bit more shrewd. So don't let Ivanka get away with it. Let's all laugh at the fact that Trump has ruined his family, but no one's getting out of this, or should get out of this, without accountability.